Ethereum has been having a tough time lately. However, this could all be about to change. That's because Ethereum has a new trick up its sleeve, its incoming Pectra upgrade. As it happens, Pectra could be the very catalyst that ETH so desperately needs. Today, we'll be looking at Pectra in detail, telling you how it will benefit Ethereum and what it could mean for your portfolio. If you hold ETH, or even if you don't, this is a video.
Welcome on into another episode of Blue Chip Crypto 3. Now, today we're going to cover Ethereum, also known as Ether, also known as ETH. This is one of the cryptocurrency that a lot of coins are being built upon. In fact, this is one of the cryptocurrency that most of the coins are being built upon, right? Open source is used for gaming, it's used for memes, it's used for utility, it's used for TPS, transactions per second, make things faster, and it also has its own updates. So let's get into it. This video is brought to you by Coin Bureau. I give credit when credit's due. Go visit this guy. The link is in the description. Let's go.
You have to watch. But before we dive into Pectra here, I need to make something perfectly clear. I'm no financial advisor. I'm just here for the ride. Education and fun is all I provide.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can only take you so far. For the rest, you'll have to DYOR. Okay, that's enough with the rhymes. It's time to see if Pectra will help Ethereum shine. Now, before we dive into the Pectra upgrade, it's important to understand the timeline of major milestones that Ethereum has already achieved. So, let's begin with a quick recap of major upgrades that have happened in recent years. The first was the launch of the Beacon chain on the 1st of December 2020. The Beacon chain was a separate chain launched alongside the Ethereum mainnet and had multiple testnets to ensure that any bugs could be rectified without affecting Ethereum itself. The Beacon chain served as Ethereum's new consensus layer and was the first step towards Ethereum's transition from a proof of work to a proof of stake blockchain. After almost 2 years of testing, the historic merge event then took place.
Now, we're going to go over the difference between a proof of work and a proof of stake. Proof of work, that's kind of like layer one, the first thing, but it don't seem to really work as well as a proof of stake, right? Proof of stake actually worked 10 times better than proof of work, but let's continue. I'm going to do a separate video about that. We're going to break that down. For this is an educational platform, also an entertainment platform, but we want to add value to you, and let's do it.
On the 15th of September 2022, the Ethereum mainnet adopted the Beacon chain's method of consensus in one of the most impressive feats in the history of software development. You might recall that this should have been rocket fuel for ETH's price, but it turned out to be something of a nothing burger after SEC Chairman Gary Gensler coincidentally declared that staked cryptos could be deemed as securities on the same day the merge took place. Then, in November 2022, FTX collapsed, dashing all hopes of any rally for ETH or indeed any other crypto. But even back then, Ethereum had another trick up its sleeve. On the 12th of April 2023, the Shapella upgrade was deployed. This allowed stakers to start withdrawing their staked ETH and any staking rewards. At the time, people were worried that this would cause a crash in ETH's price, but in fact, the opposite happened. That's because users were more confident about depositing their ETH on the network. As a result, ETH's price rallied by more than 30% in the month leading up to Shapella and gained roughly 15% more once Shapella was deployed. It goes without saying that this gave ETH holders a confidence boost and incentivized Ethereum devs to go for the next win. So after Shapella, the next milestone was the highly anticipated Dencun upgrade. Dencun was deployed on the 13th of March this year and introduced critical changes to Ethereum, particularly for its Layer 2 ecosystem. That's because, among other things, it introduced something called data blobs, which could be attached to Ethereum blocks to improve the efficiency of data handling. This made Layer 2 scaling solutions much faster and cheaper. ETH's price flew by well over 70% in the lead up to Denkun, but this turned out to be a sell the news event because in the following days, ETH dropped by around 20% and has yet to recover to that level. And this brings us to the present day, where another upgrade is waiting in the wings. This is, of course, Pectra. Until recently, Pectra was only deployed on various devnets, which are basically environments for developers to experiment on. A testnet was finally created for Pectra on the 31st of October, called Mekong. For context, a testnet is like a prototype rollout before the actual upgrade gets released, meaning developers can test new features without affecting Ethereum itself, in case it wasn't clear enough. Now, Pectra will be deployed on Mekong during this year's DevCon, which takes place between the 12th and 15th of November. This is so that people attending the conference can try out this new and improved version of Ethereum and offer their feedback. While we don't know for sure when Pectra will be deployed to mainnet, we do know that Ethereum devs are targeting Q1 of 2025. And by the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, give it a boost by smashing those like and subscribe buttons, and be sure to ping that notification bell so you don't miss our next one.
Now, listen to the myriad of updates that was needed in order to make ETH much better. And one thing that I do like about this crypto space is that once there's a bug, once there's a problem, they have a team, and the team actually creates a solution for the problem. If not, the project or the chain is scratched. So I like the fact that they keep updating things. That's why one thing I like about software. Just for example, right? Your iPhone, for example, you have an iPhone, if you have a bug on it, 9 times out of 10, right? They're going to do some type of software update in a couple of months, or maybe once a year or twice a year, because no program is deployed perfect until, well, it could be deployed perfect, but it goes through its own processes, its own problems, and its own glitches, and its own this and its own that. So the fact that you can tap into it and just hit it with a software update, to me, that's excellent, which makes, to me, ETH a much better coin. Because first, I didn't like it because it was proof of work. It was slow. It cost too much gas fees. But they had Polygon to solve the solution. They have all of these Petra, these Mukon, all of these other software updates that actually created a solution for the problems that I didn't like about it. So this is becoming more of a blue chip crypto, which it already is. It's currently about 4,000 right now. It's currently about 4,000, up about 80% this year. So I think it may 2x or 3x. I know in the 2030 cycle, it may be worth 20 to 30,000. Let's continue.
Are you ready for deep?
Let's go.
The Coin Bureau deals page is even. I need to cool down. Developers who seem to love giving their for someone's cat. So, the word Pectra is actually a portmanteau of Prague and Electra. Basically, ever since the merge, all major Ethereum upgrades are now deployed in pairs so that the execution.
Now look at the update. The update was Chapella, Don Khan, and then now we at Petra. So to me, this is actually a good roadmap.
And the consensus layer stay in sync. Then the names of both halves of the upgrade are smushed together by Ethereum developers who seem to love giving their upgrades weird monikers. Nerds, eh? As a fun fact, execution layer upgrades are named after a city that's previously hosted DevCon. So think London, Paris, Shanghai, Cancun, and Prague. Whereas consensus layer upgrades are named after a star selected in alphabetical order. So think Altair, Bellatrix, Capella, Deneb, and Electra. So, in Pectra's case, Prague is the name for the execution layer upgrade, and Electra is the name for the upgrade to the consensus layer. The next upgrade, by the way, will be Fusaka, a portmanteau of Osaka and Fulu. The more you know. Anyways, whereas Denkun drastically cut layer 2 costs and improved Ethereum's overall efficiency, Pectra's main goal is to implement a series of improvements to enhance Ethereum's layer 1 functionality and user experience, or UX. And many would argue that Ethereum's UX has been one of its biggest sticking points. Anyway, more specifically, Pectra will make critical improvements to the functionality of crypto wallets by allowing them to work similar to smart contracts. In a nutshell, this means giving wallets the ability to do things like making automated payments or setting up spending limits. And Pectra will also do more technical stuff behind the scenes, such as improving gas efficiency, optimizing transaction costs, enhancing cryptographic security, and increasing network throughput.
That's
Pretty cool,
good.
huh? But more importantly, Pectra sets the stage for future upgrades, namely Fusaka, which is set to have an even bigger effect on Ethereum than Pectra will. More on that later, though. Now, just like previous upgrades, Pectra consists of numerous Ethereum improvement proposals, or EIPs. If you watched our video covering the Denkun upgrade, you'll know it consisted of 9 separate EIPs. We'll leave a link to that video in the description for you if you want to learn more, by the way. Anyhow, it's a similar story for Pectra, which also consists of 9 EIPs. However, it's important to note that at the time of shooting, the list of included EIPs is still being debated, and the final list has yet to be officially confirmed. Originally, Pectra consisted of over 20 EIPs, but the decision was made in September to split the upgrade into 2 parts. We'll come back to that later. So then, just like we did in our Denkun video, let's briefly go over each of those 9 EIPs. These are all fairly technical, but we'll do our best to keep things simple. Note that I'll be listing these in numerical order for simplicity's sake. So first we have EIP 2537, which boosts the cryptographic security of the network, allowing developers to perform signature verifications and other similar functions in a more secure way. Then we have EIP 2935, which increases the amount of data from past blocks that can be stored in new blocks. It also sets the stage for Verkle trees, which is something that Vitalik himself is quite excited about. Essentially, Verkle trees are a
Now, Vitalik is the creator of the Ethereum. Vitalik is the creator of Ethereum. Let's go.
data structure that will improve the efficiency of the network while keeping data storage requirements to a bare minimum. Anyway, next up, we have EIP 6110, which makes it faster for validators to deposit their ETH. This is quite important because validators are the crucial part of Ethereum's proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. This upgrade will make validator deposits more secure and will speed up deposit transactions dramatically from 12 hours to just 13 minutes. The next EIP is 7002, which also enhances the UX for validators. Specifically, this update gives validators more flexibility in their staking options and allows for withdrawals to be triggered on the execution layer. Then we have EIP 7251, which is easily the biggest UX improvement for validators. Basically, this update raises the validator staking limit while keeping the minimum deposit limit at 32 ETH. So, imagine you had 50 ETH that you wanted to use exclusively for validator nodes. Well, currently, you need 32 ETH for each node, meaning you'd be stuck with the remaining 18 ETH after your first node. But after the update is rolled out, you could add that 18 ETH to your original validator and earn more rewards. The bonus of this update is that because validators are being consolidated, this should reduce the number of inactive nodes and could potentially improve the network's efficiency, since there would be fewer nodes sending messages back and forth. Anyway, the next EIP is 7549, which shuffles the consensus message around a bit to essentially make it more efficient, which could also enhance the resilience of the network. Again, we're keeping things simple here. Then we have EIP 7685, which boosts the interoperability of the consensus and execution layers by improving their communication. Notably, this update was deemed necessary because the proliferation of smart contracts has created a surge in demand on the execution layer that isn't matched on the consensus layer. So, this EIP delegates certain responsibilities to those smart contracts, avoiding the need for an intermediary to step in to make sure everything's running smoothly. Our next EIP is 7702, which is the one that people are most excited about. This is the EIP that improves the functionality of crypto wallets by giving them smart contract properties, which will give them more usability in crypto apps and enhance security features. Notably, there are 3 key features of this wallet update. The first is batching, which allows a wallet to do multiple things in one transaction. So, for example, you could approve and spend an ERC20 token in one go. Any active Ethereum users will know that you currently need to sign for approval before doing anything with tokens. The second feature is sponsorship, which basically means that one user's transaction costs could be paid for by another user. And the third feature is called privilege de-escalation, which allows users to set up subkeys, sort of like a mini wallet, that have specific permission limits. So, for example, these subkeys could be authorized to spend ERC20 tokens, but not ETH. And finally, we have EIP 7742, which actually extends the functionality of those blobs that were introduced in EIP 4844, a key part of the Denkun upgrade. EIP 7742 makes it so the execution layer no longer verifies a data blob's maximum value, and instead gets this value dynamically from the consensus layer. Essentially, the execution layer currently keeps hard-coded values for data blobs, but they're pretty much pointless and could potentially interfere with future upgrades. So this is being removed entirely without causing any issues. And that is all of the EIPs for the Pectra upgrade. That was a lot in there. Now, we'll leave a link in the description for you in case you want to dive deeper into these EIPs yourself. But just know there's a lot of computer science stuff.
I think that's good. That's basically saying that it's been updated and upgraded to the point where it's going to be better for user case, smart contracts, more utility. Basically, more utility may be better for the developers, more user-friendly. So I think that's actually excellent. Let's go.
Only nerds are really going to enjoy reading. So don't say we didn't warn you. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Pectra originally consisted of more than 20 EIPs, so the Ethereum devs decided to split the upgrade into two. That's because, had they decided to do everything at once, there would be a much higher chance of one of these going wrong, and let's be honest, no ETH holders are going to appreciate that. So, probably a good call then. Anyway, the EIPs that were pushed back from Pectra will now make up the future Fusaka upgrade, which likely won't come before 2026. This is because one of the major updates involves the introduction of those Verkle trees we mentioned earlier, which will take over a year to develop. While the list of included EIPs is still under review, we do know some that are being considered for inclusion. The reason these are important to know now is because by comparison, Pectra is considered a relatively small upgrade. It'll be Fusaka that does a lot of the heavy lifting, so to speak. In the words of Tim Bako, a lead Ethereum Foundation developer, quote, "The idea with Pectra is to try and find a bunch of small wins that we can get relatively quickly while we prototype the larger stuff. So then, let's take a look at a few of these proposals. But keep in mind that these could change in the coming months. I'm sure we'll keep you updated in a future video." So, with that said, one of the EIPs being considered for Fusaka is 7623, which basically adjusts the costs for certain datasets in order to limit block sizes. In the long run, this should ensure that stakers can continue to create and fill new blocks. Another, meanwhile, is EIP 7762, which increases the minimum base fee for data blobs to prevent their gas fee from spiking. Now, there are also 3 EIPs being considered that will work together in tandem: 7781, 7782, and, yep, you guessed it, 7783. Put simply, these will reduce the time between newly created blocks, increasing transaction efficiency. They'll also introduce a gradual increase to the gas target, which will allow for more transactions to be included in each block. There's also a very important EIP being considered, and that is EIP 7594, called Peer DAS, which stands for Peer Data Availability Sampling. The TLDR here is that Peer DAS will allow beacon chain nodes to verify data availability without having to download all the data for a block. This will help with Layer 2 rollup solutions. FYI, data availability has been a major bottleneck for Layer 2 rollups. Anyway, Peer DAS has been given the green light, but it hasn't yet been decided if this EIP will be a standalone update or if it will be part of Fusaka. So then, as you can probably see, the Pectra upgrade will bring some critical changes, and it prepares Ethereum for even more beneficial upgrades in the future. What's not to like? Well, as it happens, there are a few concerns, although happily not too many. The first of these concerns is around decentralization, which may come as a surprise given that Ethereum is technically one of the most decentralized cryptos out there. However, these concerns derive from the fact that validators will be able to consolidate their ETH, which logically means fewer validator nodes and makes each consolidated node a single point of failure. That said, the other side of the coin is that this will also mean that major stakers like Lido Finance, Rocket Pool, and Coinbase can reduce the number of nodes they're running, which will in turn reduce whatever monopoly they may have over the network. Another concern is that the upgrades to Ethereum wallets could potentially reduce demand for ETH. That's because Pectra would make it possible for transaction fees on Ethereum's layer 2s to be paid for in other cryptocurrencies. So, for example, you could use USDC to pay for transactions on Base rather than keeping a small amount of ETH in your wallet for that purpose. Now, while this is a great UX improvement overall, some would argue that when millions of users around the world are holding ETH for the purpose of paying these fees, it becomes a demand driver. However, we reckon this change is unlikely to have any real negative impact because these upgrades are generally quite bullish. As such, there's only going to be more users drawn to Ethereum, so the demand for ETH should increase. Okay, now for the all-important question. What does the Pectra upgrade mean for ETH's price? Well, if it wasn't already obvious, Pectra and the upgrades that will follow it are bullish for ETH. So much so that they could eventually be the catalysts that help ETH regain its all-time high. The only downside for now is that Ethereum devs haven't been able to agree on how to split the Pectra upgrade. To be clear, everyone's in agreement that it should be split, but the disagreement on how is causing some problems. Although, having said that, it's safe to say that Ethereum devs are taking their time on this in order to determine the best course of action. After all, it's a marathon, not a sprint. However, we couldn't help notice that it seems like a lot of the juicy stuff was pushed back to the Fusaka upgrade. As Tim Bako puts it, quote, "It's going to be a relatively small upgrade. We're working on Verkle trees and that transition, but it's going to take more than a year. So in the meantime, we have bandwidth to work on other small wins." Basically, what this means is that Pectra could turn out to be a bit of a nothing burger. On the bright side, though, sentiment around Ethereum has been pretty bearish lately, and this is actually good for two reasons. First, the current mood could potentially be marking the local bottom, so to speak. And second, it likely means that neither Pectra nor Fusaka have been priced in. Given that ETH has been desperate for a breakout for quite some time, this could be the spark it needs. Things become even more bullish when you consider that the UX improvements could make Ethereum more attractive for institutions who may wish to set up large validator nodes to cash in on staking rewards. With a bit of luck, Pectra's upgrades could lead to improvements around Ethereum's narrative due to its added functionality, something that institutions are missing. Most importantly, though, Pectra's upgrades would make Ethereum more competitive with other layer ones like Solana, which have basically been eating its lunch this year. Consider that most of these layer ones already have the account abstraction features that Ethereum is currently lacking, such as being able to sign a permission and execute a single transaction in one click instead of 3. From our perspective, UX is the one area where Ethereum is most seriously lacking, so much so that even hardcore ETH holders have started acknowledging that Ethereum needs to catch up on this front. Again, this is exactly what Pectra should do, and there's a good chance that ETH's price will reflect that as a result. A user-friendly Ethereum is exactly what everyone wants and needs. So, given these facts, a successful deployment of Pectra could give Ethereum and ETH's price a much-needed boost. Whether ETH can hit a new all-time high in the wake of Pectra really depends on wider market conditions and any hype around Fusaka. The catch, though, is that Pectra is still a few months away and could even be delayed. So, here's hoping it comes sooner rather than later, because Ethereum and its community sure as heck needs something to cheer about. In the meantime, though, hold on tight, my friends. It's going to be a bumpy old ride. And that's all for today's video, folks. So if you found it insightful, let us know by smashing that like button. If you want to see more educational crypto content, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell. Be sure to check out the links in the description.
This was an excellent video, excellent educational video. Smash that like button. Let me know if you guys hold any Ethereum, and if so, how long do you plan on holding it? When do you plan on selling it? Or this is a long-term investment for you? On that note, another episode of the Blue Chip Crypto audio reaction video. I give credit when credit's due. Go check out Coin Bureau. I look at this guy for a lot of detailed, highly investigated, bureau type information that actually add value. So, like I say, the description is right down. The link is right down in the description. Go check him out. On that note, I appreciate everyone.